Art 120. In this video, we are going to be taking our work file and we're going to be prepping it for printing and sizing the image, building a canvas, and then first making a test strip, and then in the second video we will actually get into printing the full file. So I'm going to navigate to my work file folder and I'm going to open up a work file that I intend to make a test strip and finally print. I'm going to just double click and open in Photoshop, and here's the file. Before I actually go to make a test strip and print, I'm just going to run through the layers and just make sure everything's adjusted how I'd like to see it in a print. I'm also going to check the screen and make sure the screen is the correct brightness to try to match our prints. So I'm just going to go through each individual layer really quickly and see. I'm going to open up the endpoints layer, and here you can see I've set my endpoints, and if I go to the highlight white point here, you can see that I'm clipping a little bit here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to change this output levels from 255 to 253 and just knock it down a little bit, and that will just put down a little ink in those really bright highlight areas. I'm doing this before I flatten the file, because if I make any changes here and then build a canvas and I have these layers, then they will actually print. There'll be a little bit of gray that's put down in the white of the canvas. So that's adjusted. I'm going to look at the exposure contrast. That looks good. And then my burn dodge layer. You can see that I've created some shadows and I've evened out some tones in certain areas. Overall, I think that looks good. So now I'm going to get ready to send this to print, and I will send first a test strip. Before I do that, first thing I need to do is check the actual image size. So I'm going to go up to Image, Size, and here we'll see that we have our scan resolution, which was 4800, and you can see the height and width is really pretty small. The key here is to remember that, one, what our output resolution will be for printing, and as I mentioned earlier, our Epson printers print best at 360 or 240. So you can see right here, right now we have a much higher resolution, which will help us when we change our height and width from this small 35 millimeter size to the actual paper size of what we're going to be printing on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click off this resample image button, and it will lock resolution, height, and width. And now if I change one, the other two will change proportionately. So I'm going to change the resolution to my print resolution, which is 360. And you can see now my height and width have gone up drastically in size, and I could actually make a much bigger print than even 8 by 10. After that, I'm going to click back on resample image so that no longer will resolution, height, and width be locked. And now the key here is to remember that no matter what I change the height or width to, and you'll see that they continue to be locked, which they should be, that the size of the image needs to be able to fit into the 8.5 by 11 size piece of paper. So here, because we have a vertical image, we're going to start with, actually let's start with a width. I'm going to change this. I'm going to leave a 1/4 inch border on both sides, so it's actually 1/8 inch on either side. So I'm going to change this to 8.25. And you see when I change it to 8.25, it would fit in the width of the paper, but the height is too much, and I would crop off part of my picture both on the top and bottom. So what I'm actually going to do is change the height instead of the width. And here we're going to change this to 10.75, so leaving a 1/8 inch border on the top and bottom, and now I can see that my width will fit in that 8.5 width of the paper. So that will fit in the 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Resolutions, again, print resolution is 360. And then I'm going to go down to this interpolator and change it from bicubic automatic to bicubic sharper. So that's for reducing the print size. We're reducing the file size. We know that because if you look at the pixel dimension up here, it says that it was 85.4 and now it will be 27.9. So we're going from a bigger file size to a smaller one. I'm going to select bicubic sharper and click OK. And then you see that the image will shrink down. Now I'm going to zoom in. And now to make my test strip, what I'm actually going to do first is I'm going to flatten the file. And then this will become our print file. So right now it's named work. We see that if I hit F a couple of times here, you'll see here up in the naming of the file that is our work file. Our work file should always have all these layers, so I'm going to save this as a new file. I'm going to go here to flatten image, So there's a couple different ways you can get to that drop-down menu, either over here on the right-hand side of the Layers palette. You'll see that these 4 straight lines in a drop-down arrow, or you can go to Layer, and down here, Flatten Image is the second from the bottom. Or the quick key, if you want to know, is Command-Shift-E will also flatten the file. So now once this is flattened, now I'm ready to actually build my canvas and then make my test strip. To build the canvas, so we've already image sized it, I'm going to go to Image, Canvas Size, or the quick key is Command-Option-C. And we're going to make this for the actual size of the piece of paper. So because this is a vertical, the width will be 8.5 and the height will be 11. If this was a horizontal, it would be the opposite. I'm going to leave the background color as white, so we're not going to print any ink down. We're going to leave that there for when we actually hang our prints with the magnets, and gives us a little border to work with. And I'm going to click OK. And so now I see what it will actually, my picture will actually look like once it's fully printed. But before we do that, we're going to make a test strip first. So in order to, before I do anything here, I'm going to File, I'm going to go to Save As. Now I'm not going to hit Save. If I do, I'm going to write over that work file, which I don't want to do because my layers are now gone. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and next to the top field here, I'm going to click on the drop-down menu. And I'm going to put this in my print folder, and I'm going to erase work, put in print, type in print, and then cancel. Actually, I'll just do CIFA, and then 8.5 by 11, and that's just to know that what size. And I'm going to say that in the print folder. Make sure it's a Photoshop document. Color space is ProPhoto RGB. Click Save, and then it saves. Now I didn't write over that work file, so if I need to go back and make adjustments after I make my test strip, I can do that. So now for the test strip, there's many different ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest way, and one in which you will not write over your print file accidentally with a smaller just strip. So we're going to go over to our tool palette, and over in our tool palette, the second tool down is what's called the Marquee Selection tool. I'm going to click on that. And when I have this tool available, we also have some options up here at the top. I'm not going to go through all these right now. We're just going to make sure that the second option here, the new selection, is clicked on, and that's the first button here. And then we're going to slide over down to where it says Style, and we're going to change the style from the normal to fixed size. And because this is a vertical image, I know that my the height of this image is going to be 11, so I'm going to type in 11. I'm going to change the px that you see here to in for inches, so instead of pixels. I'm going to change the width here to 1.5 in. So this is similar to what we did in the darkroom, but instead of cutting up the paper, we're going to send multiple test strips through on one piece of paper. So now what I'm going to look for is an area in the image where I have both a nice highlight and a good shadow. And I'm going to click, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to make one click, and you'll see that we get the marching ants here on our image. That means that we've made a selection of this area. Now if I want to move this left or right, instead of moving with the cursor or the actual mouse, I'm going to just use my arrow keys, and I'm going to move it over. And so that looks like, well, that's grabbing some good highlight, some good shadow, and I have both a white point and black point. Now I'm going to just hit Command-C to copy, and that copies anything that's in the marching ants or the marquee, and then Command-N for new, or you could also go to File, New here. It's faster if you just hit Command-N. And whenever you have anything copied in your clipboard in Photoshop, when you hit Command-N or New File, it will make the file size of whatever is copied, so I don't need to do anything here. I just hit OK, and then Command-V to paste in, or if you go to Edit, Paste, it will paste in your test strip. So now we have our test strip here, and this will be what we print when we go to send this to the actual printer. I'm going to close out of this here, changing the view mode to F, and I'm going to stop the video now, and then in the second part we will actually print this test strip.